Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to address the topic of tracking your food using an app such as MyFitnessPal or MyMacros Plus, and constantly tracking your macros and knowing when it's time to take a break from tracking. So this is kind of a big question that clients have because, as you know, I love flexible dieting because I love the food autonomy that it allows clients to have and for myself. But there is definitely a time when you need to put the app away. And by that I mean, is it realistic to be tracking for the rest of your life? Probably not. And for some of you, sometimes tracking so often leads to more problems than benefit. And I'm going to explain that a little bit more. So just like following a meal plan or having structured diet, a meal plan, structured diet, using your app can have the same obsessive behaviors. And I've had clients who beat themselves up and put themselves into a huge amount of stress over dissecting every little gram that goes into the MyFitnessPal or whatever app they're using, to the point where the whole point of removing the meal plan to allow that client to have food autonomy and to feel like they had that empowerment was thrown out the window because they were now obsessed over minute numbers all the time. So understand that there definitely is this fine line between, healthy ability to have food choices and to be able to enjoy life while reaching your goals, and a level of obsession that can become very, very blurred for anybody who is coming into this with an obsessive mindset over food. And I sort of look at it like this, sort of like it's a process, so to speak. So a lot of times I'll have potential clients that come to me that have been on the meal plan and they're terrified to flexible diet, or they're on the other end of the spectrum where they just want to be able to eat all the foods and fit them into their app. And so they end up kind of going one way or the other. They either are terrified to use the app, or they're so excited to use the app that they've kind of thrown all their nutritional information out the window because they just want to fit in all the junk food possible that they can. And so, as usual, the truth always lies somewhere in the middle, where we want to still have that food autonomy, but we don't want to be obsessive over, every single gram and ounce that we're putting in our bodies. And we also don't want to be going into this like unhealthy state of making it all about junk food and nutrient void food so that we can say we're fitting it into our macros. And there is that sort of fine line in between. And for anybody that's truly a proponent of flexible dieting, they will tell you that healthy, nutrient-dense food is still going to be making up the base of your daily nutrition. So while you want to be able to fit that chocolate in or have that burger, fitting that stuff into your daily plan is allowed, but it shouldn't be that you are making your entire life about candy bars and chips. I hope that makes sense for everybody. The other area where it's time to put away the app, and I'm not saying put the app away if you're in one or the other. It's sort of like this transitionary period where I'll have this client who, and this is how I do things, I'm just telling you guys, client who's been on the meal plan and they have obsessive behavior of the meal plan. We start using macro exchanges. So they are able to use these charts so that they can create meals with foods. I'm giving them a list of food that they can choose from and the quantities and the weight of them. So they're still sort of in that process of having a safe list. And it's sort of this process of like adding on to that as we go until they graduate to that ability to be able to use their app. And then once they're in the app and then they realize, hey, you know what? I'm actually a fully capable human who knows what they want to eat, throughout the day and I have a good idea of portion control, then we tend to move over more into an intuitive style of eating. But it is like this process. The other client that I would have, and it's sort of like, it's kind of on both ends of the spectrum, so to speak, and that is the competitor or the chronic dieter who has lost the ability or never learned the ability to listen to their body. And that does kind of go in towards that intuitive eating, of course. So it is sort of this process of getting there. And I've had clients that come to me that have been on the meal plans and they can go straight to intuitive eating. And then I've had others that we sort of have to zigzag around. But in terms of these competitors, that ability to understand their satiety, to understand their cravings, to understand what tastes good for them, what lets them feel like they are still enjoying food, so to speak, that kind of gets lost. And our bodies have this really amazing way of telling us what we need if we are listening to them. And unfortunately, in the diet industry, we are taught to suppress any of those feelings that we have by being on a diet or tracking our macros. So there definitely comes this point where, as a client, they are realizing that, hey, this is no longer serving me to be constantly tracking my food and obsessing over it. And in fact, I don't feel like my body is making progress by going down to every single calorie and macro count. And our human body is actually much more sophisticated than we give it credit for, and it will do what it needs to do. So if one day, if your maintenance level of calories is 1,600, and one day you have 1,200, and the next day you have 1,800, your body is actually really well equipped to be able to handle that. And what I find with my long-term clients I've had who have sort of broke out of the diet mentality and allowed their bodies to get into a happy, healthy place, they actually no longer track their food. They no longer obsess over every single calorie and every single gram of food that they're eating. But it is another coaching process of working to that way of trusting yourself with food. And like I said before, in the diet industry, in the diet mentality, we are told and taught not to trust our bodies and not to trust our own instincts and our own needs of what we actually want to fuel ourselves with and how much we want to fuel ourselves with. So this is definitely another process in coaching that we would work on with clients, where we are actually removing them from the app. So we've had clients who come to us, potential clients, and they want to learn how to flexible diet. And what they find is that once they're in the flexible dieting, they actually have a better understanding of portion control. They start to feel safer with inputting foods that perhaps in the past they were told those were bad foods, or they created labels around them. And then as time goes on, they're able to remove themselves from the app and they're able to go more into an intuitive style of eating. Just like I was talking about in my other video, though, there's so much attachment to food and body image that actually comes from this negative place, and it really actually has nothing to do with the body or food, and it actually has a lot to do with our own interpersonal work. So until you start working into those deeper layers of your why and sort of your triggers and what is going on for you that you obsess with the external versus the internal of what's going on with your body, intuitive eating may end up being very overwhelming for you because you haven't learned the coping skills for how to cope with stress without food. And so that can lead to overeating or binging or going the opposite direction of undereating. So it's definitely a process in coaching, and it takes a little bit of time. But if you are somebody who is in this obsessive state over every little calorie that you put in your body, so if your macros were like 150, 150, 50, and you go 155, 155, 52, and you can't sleep at night, that is a very good sign that for you, tracking is an unhealthy avenue. And 9 times out of 10, when that is happening, it is dieting in general is an unhealthy avenue for that client. And so the whole point of coaching for us is not to track the macros, create the meal plan, but to actually move away from the tracking and the meal plan and the dieting, because that's no longer serving them. So I hope that makes sense for you guys. If you have any questions, again, send me an email, jen@intrafit.com. You can visit our website, go through all the different blogs that we have. And again, set up a consult. Be happy to talk to you. It's free. Okay, enjoy your day.